Thanks for my reminder. Well, good morning, everyone. I think we're all very excited to be here. I know Alyssa said it as well. For those of you I don't know, I'm Lindsay Horowitz, post-secondary and transition specialist with MDE. And I know the first half hour, we're going to have some really fun things for you guys to review and look at and kind of just orient yourself around. And I think, Alyssa, you said this in the beginning. I wish we had time for all of us to do introductions. However, I think there's too many of us on here to do introductions with the time we have today. So I don't know, I'll turn it over either Alyssa, if you want to say good morning, or I'll turn it back over to Seth.
I'll just say hi. Hi, everybody. Alyssa Klein from VRS. So welcome. I'm just going to hand it right to Seth. I'm pointing to you.
Thanks, Alyssa and Lindsay. Hi, everybody. I'm Seth Levin. I'm a consultant contractor that works with Disability Hub MN, and I've had the good privilege of working with Lindsay and Alyssa and the Hub and DHS team to really get our Youth in Transition Toolkit almost ready to make public. So Lindsay and Alyssa will talk about that later. I think I've presented to you folks a few months ago for an initial review of a section of the Youth in Transition Toolkit, specifically Educate Yourself. And now we're coming back to really let you go online and look at the full toolkit. And we'll be looking for certain kinds of feedback if you have it. So that's what we're here today. What I'm going to do is go over, again, what the toolkit is, what we're needing from you, and then show you how to go online and review it and how to give feedback. And I've got it written out, and this document will be sent to you, so you'll have it for reference. Additionally, I know Lindsay is recording this, so you'll get the recording so you can go back and listen if necessary. So let me share my screen and start with, excuse me. Okay, hold on here. You all seen Youth in Transition Toolkit for Professionals?
Yes.
I'm going to go a little bit larger, if that's helpful.
Yes.
Well, just a reminder that what this is it's really a toolkit for professionals at this point, not directly for youth or for families. It's really meant for you, and really to be a single place that holds content, resources, tools that's really going to support your person-centered conversation and planning about youth and transition. The objectives of the toolkit is really to help create that common language and framework for all of you, and to help build best practices, and to have a single spot available for the tools and information you need. And ultimately to build efficiencies. We know, that you might be looking here, looking there. The whole goal behind Disability Hub and this toolkit is really to have a single spot a repository that you can go to, and not that the toolkit holds everything. Often there's links off, etc. But it is meant to be kind of a first start, and it'll help navigate you to other things. I do want to make clear this out of scope. The toolkit is not the place for individual agency policies and directives. That's still in your, whatever that is, your internal website or your manuals. This is really meant to be, I don't want to say generic, but it's really meant to be an agnostic place for all professionals, whether it's providers, educators, VR counselors, case managers, any professional who's working with youth in transition planning. Okay. I also need to tell you that what you're going to see once you start reviewing, and by the way, I should tell you today what I'm doing is showing it to you, and then we're giving you a period of time where you can go in and do your review. It's kind of, we had a struggle with this in the beginning, because of course we all want the, kind of the premium site that holds absolutely everything and does every interactive thing and has every video that we have that isn't even developed yet. But we really have to start with just creating the baseline, with really having the right architecture, the right infrastructure of information, and really baseline information that is a great start that we can build off of. I often think of it in architecture in terms of a home. You need your starter home, and you can start planning how you're going to do that back recreation room or something. That's where we're at. And I think it's important for you in your review to remember that there may be some real great things that isn't there yet, but are they really necessary for phase one? That's a little bit where we're at. That being said, we're always open to comments about what can or should happen down the road, and we'll be working with you all as we do develop it. So again, the primary audience are professionals. In fact, I'm going to even underline that. Professionals who work with youth and family in planning for their future. I do want to tell you, there is material that a professional potentially could work with a youth or work with a family in the toolkit, and work, either email it or text it or show it or print it out for youth and families. So it is written in such a way, materials are written in such a way that it can be given out. I do want people to know, in addition to creating this professional toolkit, on Disability Hub down the road here, we're creating transition planning materials for youth and also for families. But we realize we need to arm all you professionals first with the right baseline information, language, et cetera, to help build that best practice. Maybe before I start talking about the toolkit, are there any questions on that?
Seth, this is Lindsay. I don't have a question, but I know we were going to kind of make sure that everybody was aware that we've taken into account accessibility pieces and just kind of that process of going through getting the content into the toolkit. Because I think that was something that we wanted to make sure, like those accommodations and modification needs to.
Well, that great comment, Lindsay. Yeah, the development of both the content and the website is all accessibility focused. I mean, those are the standards for Disability Hub MN. In creating the content, a really good point, Lindsay, it's really been, I don't want to say exhaustive, because it's there's always more to do, but it's really taking in a lot of different parties from MDE, DHS, DEED, and actually some outside consultants as well. So, but as you'll see, what we'll want in your review is if there's just something that's really erroneously stated or just is not the right way to frame something because it goes against a standard, we want to know that. We're hoping that we've done enough that that's not the case, but this is why you're here. So let me go over what I want to do now is talk about the toolkit and how it's structured and what you'll be looking at. And then I'm going to show you the maybe complicated, I hope not, instructions of how to get into the website. And then I'm going to go into the website, and then I'm going to come back to it all. And again, this document you're seeing, you're going to get. Just a reminder that the toolkit's broken into 3 sections. Educate yourself, which is about making sure you as a professional are up to speed on certain items. A focus on families and tools of how to engage them, and then a focus on youth and really how to engage youth. It's a really good structure, I think. You'll have this as a reference. This is the content behind the website. So for educate yourself, engage families, support youth, this is how it's broken down in terms of navigation and topics in the website. You're welcome to print that out and use that. So I just wanted you to know I included that.
Nice.
And just a reminder, this is a phase 1 baseline content to be expanded over time, okay? All right, so your assignment is going to be to review those 3 sections and provide feedback if you find, we're kind of looking for 2 areas. Now, first of all, let me say, the majority of you previously reviewed Educate Yourself. We took and looked at every single comment and we integrated where it was appropriate. all comments were valuable, but we made editorial assessments. So you've already reviewed Educate Yourself. We would encourage you to look at it again, both to familiarize yourself with the core content for Educate Yourself. And again, if you see anything majorly wrong, we'd want to know. The areas you haven't seen are engage families and support youth. I will say, though we don't explicitly say it, our assumption is people will go into Educate Yourself first, and then it's interchangeable as to which of the two you go to, or there's nothing wrong with doing it linearly, Educate Yourself, engage families, support youth. And in fact, I would maybe, and Lindsay and Alyssa comment, I would maybe encourage you to do that. I think that would be maybe the right approach, if Lindsay and Alyssa agree. Thumbs up, yeah, because they're kind of meant to build on each other, and yet they can also be used independently. So regarding feedback, what we're looking for, again, is anything that's really major boo-boo. You cannot state it this way, or it goes against policy or anything like that. And then anything that's obviously missing, like, wow, there's a logic gap. You talk about this and go to this, but you're missing that. Or here's a resource we absolutely always use, that sort of thing. We're trying to limit it because I don't want to say limit it, but at this point, we're not doing navigation changes. We want a check from you guys that, yes, this is good baseline information, and it would be ideal to have this, but it probably could go out without it, or you have to have this before any new professional comes on board, something like that. So I do need to state, if you see a page that says something like Sean to write content, or Alyssa, what do you think of this? Just ignore it. You can, there's still a couple refinements going on, but just if you see that, we're aware of kind of those open spaces. I actually think, and Lindsay and Alyssa, Leslie and I connected yesterday, I think they're all pretty much cleaned up. So, but if you stumble upon that, folks, don't be alarmed, don't alert us. We know they're there. So the other thing is, if you don't have feedback, don't give any. The reason being, we're collecting all these in a little bit of a way that'll be easier just to look at very solid feedback. So we are not judging people if you've done a review and you have absolutely no feedback. If anything, we're probably judging you positively. So just kidding. But there's no pressure to provide feedback. You should only be providing feedback on these two areas. So we just wanted to say that. And then again, just a reminder about the Educate Yourself. Now, I probably should have left this to the end before we review how to get into the site and how the site's set up, but we are giving a deadline of the end of the day on June 15th. That's a week from tomorrow. It might feel tight, but again, it's there to emphasize you are not doing a deep analysis. You're doing more of a high level content review. Just and really ask yourself, would this be helpful for me? Maybe focus in a little bit more in a section that you don't know about to see if you did learn something. So. Okay.
But this is something I think it's like, for those of us who've reviewed previously, it is vastly different in terms of what we're asking you to do this time. I feel like, Seth, you've said it a few times already, but just to reiterate, we're not asking you to do that same dive of review. Just like Seth said, we are hoping that you can just look at this, see if it is useful for you as a professional. And then I feel like you always use the word egregious. If there's anything like major to let us know, but otherwise, like Seth said, just keep plugging along.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsay. Now I realized I made a mistake in my presentation. I should have just gone to the site to get you excited about it, but instead I've done the instructions for getting to the site. I'm going to go through this. We're going to go to the site, and then I'll come back to this. And again, you're going to have this sheet for reference. It's slightly complicated. What I need to tell you is the site is not public. And we're taking you to our development site, but we're giving you a special way in, and there's no way you can change anything. And so that's kind of our concern, So we haven't done this before with such a large group. We're confident you guys will be great. And, but it's a little bit different for us. So it maybe a few more steps than is preferable, but it's the way it has to be right now. So I'm gonna go over these instructions and demonstrate it. We'll look at the site and then we'll come back. I think actually I'm gonna talk through it and then I'll come back and click. We're giving a URL which is linked here. You can just click on the link from this document. Just so you know, the link actually shows up here. I don't know if you're seeing that in.
Yep.
When you hover over the link, we have this really complicated password. Your email for everybody is reviewer@email.com. Feel free to write that down, or your cookies might remember it. The password, I think you're going to have to come back to this page each time and copy, cut, and paste it because it's a complicated one.
Actually, mine just auto populates for me, so that might happen.
I think because you've done it, yeah. Maybe once you go in, it'll auto populate.
Mine does too.
Then I'm going to show you a couple of other steps you have to do to get there. I'm going to come back to that stuff. Again, review each of the 3 sections. I'm going to show you this in the website, but the way to get feedback is every page, and this is true throughout Disability Hub, has up in the top navigation, give feedback. And so if you're on a page and you want to give feedback on that page, you click that. And what you get, and I'll show you this live, is this. What is your opinion? You're welcome to answer that, but the main thing we want are your comments. And probably your email address. We'll talk about that. And you submit it. You will not, I don't think you get a response saying, thank you, it's been submitted. You might. Don't worry, it's all going to a database. We are aware that everything coming from this review are you guys. So we know it's not the public. And that's how we're going to collect it. I think it's a little bit easier this time than the way you did it last time, though that Word Google Doc form was good. So, oh, maybe I didn't want to show this. I mean, throughout the route here, if you're having a technical concern, just email me. Okay. So let's get to the site and we'll go over that again. Okay. So you go to this and it pulls up Happy Wonderful Wednesday. If you're coming in on a Thursday, it says something with a TH.
Thoughtful Thursday?
Maybe. Yeah, I can't recall. I happen to have it up. So it's reviewer@email. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to that doc that you'll have to. I'm going to copy the password. And then back to the site. Sorry about and just paste it in and then log in. Okay, you're going to get this crazy looking page. Don't do anything. This is where it's a little kludgy. Go back to, your document. And once logged in, click here. This is the Youth and Transition Toolkit in an editorial phase. Do not touch this. I'll show it to you on the sheet and then I'll show it to you. On the sheet it says, so once you've did that, go to the bottom right corner and hit preview. Don't hit save and publish, don't hit save. So let's do that. Actually, you know what? It's designed that all you have is preview. You just hit preview. And there it is, it comes up. So you just had to go through those few steps to get here. Just a reminder to orient everyone, this is all part of the bigger hub. This is the navigation for the hub, which is designed for people here, but we also have for families and for professionals. You're directly in a development server on the toolkit. Don't worry if there's not a photo or things like that. So this is the very front page of the toolkit. Again, this is the image you saw earlier about the 3 sections. I'm going to go into educate yourself first, because I want to show you something. We're in educate yourself, and there's cookies up here that show you that. We're in educate yourself. And once again, you can see the 3 sections on the left here, and this is where you can navigate from educate yourself to engage families to support youth. What happens when you click on those is the subtopics drop down. So all we're asking is, I think I'll go to engage families, which is one you haven't seen. is start at the top. Go to engage families, get ready. You know, so pages like this have, you know, some have open accordions, some don't. You can go back and forth, you know, without any problem. Let me go to the transition process. I'm just choosing page. And once again, the site is big. Choose the best way for you to do it methodically. And if for some reason you don't get to everything, you know, just do what you can. Let me show you though that give feedback. I'm going to go into, let me go to the transition framework, which is an important page. Give feedback is just right here. So you go to give feedback. Again, we're not if you just like the page and have no other comments, we don't want you to give feedback. You actually don't have to do this part, but do the, you've misstated the blah, 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 refer to X manual, which, you know, as much background you can give us is great. Or if it's something like a key resource I always use is, you know, or maybe it's something like, I really found this confusing. And you have to find it really confusing, like you really can't figure it out to submit it, okay? I think it would be good if you're comfortable to give your email address, if you're comfortable, just in case we have a question on that, we'll know who to get back to. And by the way, I'm going to put this up here because I'm going to submit it. Actually, I'll put my email. Whoops. Well, you can see all my emails there. And then you submit. And let's see what happens. I've forgotten.
Looks like that first one is required to like.
Oh, it is required. Okay. Or maybe dislike. We're going to presume you dislike. Isn't that funny? It's required. I guess I had read that wrong. Thank you. So the form has been submitted. And then if you think, oh, I forgot to say something else, just give another. That's fine. And go, and you can do that each and every page. Do you want to see? I have to say, and Lindsay and Alyssa maybe recall, I think on this page with big accordions,
Yeah.
you may have to say, boy, in the focus on strengths section, it missed a da, da, da.
Yeah.
Now we are hoping, folks, that we've been pretty thorough because we've had some outside reviewers to date. And, you know, so I'm hoping there's not a lot, but this is, you are really our quality control people here. So I'll keep this site up, but before I go off, are there any questions about it? I was going to go back to the directions. Does that seem clear?
I have a quick question. This is Elisa. So when we go in there and let's say everything looks awesome and we don't have anything to say, then we just don't submit anything, correct?
That's correct.
So if you don't hear from us, then you assume
We're not coming after you.
okay.
Is that right, Lindsay? We'll take it as a vote of confidence. Feel free to email Lindsay or Alyssa saying, wow, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. You guys are stars. In fact, I'll just provide you the template language for that. I mean, feel free to email directly to Lindsay and Alyssa if you have some comments. That'd be great. We want all feedback, but we, just because of the way it works in the database and us kind of sifting through it, it'd be great if we really just get the critical feedback on something missing or something that's really wrong. I'm sorry, Alyssa.
I'm sorry. This is Alyssa. And I was just going to say, I would welcome though emails in terms of after you go through it or as you're going through it, something that's not like what we're asking for, but you have a thought or an idea. I would love to hear that personally. I'm sure Lindsay would too, because again, this is going to be a living thing that we're going to, like Seth said, I mean, it's the beginning and we do want to kind of know, like, if you're going through this and you're feeling whatever, like this is needed too, or whatever that doesn't pertain to feedback on the pages. I would love to hear that.
I would agree. If you send that, will you send it to both of us? Because I feel like either Alyssa or Seth, one of you have already said it today. The goal is for you guys to use this, and we have multiple people here in different roles. So
Mhm.
ideally, we want this tool to be used for not just you, others in the field, other professionals, but all, of course, serving our youth. And so we want to hear from you. So yeah, I like that you said that. So just share away to Alyssa and I, and those are the emails we probably want to read.
Yeah, I won't mind that at all.
Yeah, you know what? I'll put that on the sheet here.
Okay.
The instructions that for technical questions, email me. For feedback beyond, again, the egregious stuff, please email Lindsay and Alyssa. I think that'd be great. And I like what Alyssa just said, that, yeah, this is the beginning. The goal is, after you're reviewing this, once this goes live later this summer, we're hoping you'll use it. You know, it's really meant for you to use. So we're going to need your use and feedback, and we'll take it all right now. Just on that feedback form, just give us the bad stuff. Okay.
And we need your PR, right, to help message it and spread it.
Good point.
Heather, we're going to send out the instructional document after this. Seth is going to send it to
I'll send it to Lindsay and Alyssa.
Lindsay, and
I'll let you send it with the
yeah.
recording. Yeah.
We'll make
This
sure
is
you
being
all get it.
recorded too. Any other questions on the website? And then I'll go back to the instructions.
Can I say one other thing too? You're on the transition framework page.
Mhm.
To me, like that is, it's all important, but the transition framework is really the central focus of it all. Really, like, these are the things that we want to ensure are considered for all students with disabilities across our state. And we're going to have a little bit of a conversation in a moment about that and other items that might be needed to help, like tools that will be needed to use the framework. So keep that in mind as you're looking through all of this, because that really, to me, is, like I said, the central piece of it all, and where we were really trying to be as thorough as possible to consider what are all those things. And it might seem like a lot, it is a lot, but we wanted to be very thorough in that, because we want to be thorough with our students. So anyway.
Great question, comment, Alyssa. And I just skipped to educate families, just because, yeah, the transition framework kind of works throughout. You know, there was one other thing, and Lindsay and Alyssa, help me here. I think professional resources, if I'm not mistaken, we don't, I don't think we're, this scenario, if you're really seeing something not here that you think is highly important, put it in the feedback. I think this is the one area we feel we haven't fully completed yet. So
yeah, Seth, this is Lindsay. And I think one of the other things to the work group, the transition framework work group that came together, we still have that document that we have all those resources on, and we have shared that. So know that if you've shared that a resource, it's in there. If you have other resources, send away.
yeah. As Alyssa was just saying, part of the core thing is the content. Say, wherever you are in your career point, whether you're new to the field, in the middle of it, or toward the end, I think, is it useful? Have you gotten key content to go back to our objectives of trying to create a framework for the whole system, language, and a repository for thinking and tools? So that's the lens with which you can wear it. Okay.
And I have one other thing too. This is Alyssa. I'm going to be real on this, because I know it can feel kind of overwhelming, like a lot of stuff. And once we have this in place, another big thing that we're beginning to work on is training for the system, for professionals, because we're going to want to really help everyone with how to use all of this and what's in there and when to go to different sections and things like that. So also just know that we realize it's a lot. And so when you just go in and start clicking through it, it's just like, it probably will feel like a lot, but keep in mind, we're going to try to help break that down through training and things like that.
That's a really good one, Melissa, and I think that's the next agenda item. And it kind of does bring back for me, and I'm going to go to, again, that's why in a way we just want an editorial view. Is there something really not stated egregiously, to keep Lindsay humored, egregiously wrong? Or, wow, there's a logic gap, or this doesn't make sense, or you really did not include this, and absolutely, we in our practice always do, that sort of thing. Look at it with that lens. So, I clicked on support youth because, again, you'll see we changed the voice a little bit. It's the way you would talk to you is about, their my best life, independent living, employment, post-secondary. You'll see that's a little different than how this is said more to you, how to reach families, how to educate families, how to activate families, and then educate yourself is really what's the framework, what are the basics, So just keep that in mind too.
Can you do one other thing for me, Seth? This is
Sure.
Alyssa. Go to support youth. What I want to say there's the 4 headings. Those are the 4 headings for the transition framework. And if you would click on, let's say, independent living. So you'll go through, you see an overview. Yeah, if you scroll down, then you see it says overview, and then it has all these subcategories in independent living. So let's say click on daily life. And then when you click on outcomes, you'll see even subcategories in daily life. So managing your home, nutrition and preparation, clothing care. This is all the framework is what we're talking about. These are the items that we want to make sure are considered and addressed with students as needed. So we're going to have a little bit more conversation in a moment about that. So I just wanted to call out when we're talking about the framework, there's the 4 sections, my best life, and then the 3 sections on an IEP, which are independent living, post-secondary education and training, and employment. And that's how we've organized the framework.
Great. Lindsay, Alyssa, anything else about the website while I'm here? I've not been monitoring the chat, so I don't know if there were any questions.
Oh, we've been monitoring, but there's a lot of
Okay.
warm fuzzies in there. So
Okay, good. As long as there's no questions. I'm going to go back one more time to see if there's any questions on the instructions. I'm going to presume this seems clear to everyone. Here's your link to get to our login. Here's your login information. This is the kludgy part, but once you've logged in, come back to the sheet and click here. Or I will say, once again, if you hover over it, you get the URL. And then you have one more step, which is just go down and hit preview, and you'll get the site. I'm going to add here, and then how to do feedback, which I think you'll find is very simple. And don't worry, you can go as long as you want, I think. If you need to go in a second time, don't worry about it. And I'm going to add, not only if you have technical questions, but 5, any feedback beyond the erroneous material or missing content to send to Lindsay and Alyssa. I'll add that to the sheet, which you'll get.
Thanks, Seth.
Okay. Oh, we're excited. And I got to say, it was fun to review this because Lindsay and Alyssa, wow, what a resource. We got lost in the weeds a little bit, but it's fun to see it. So.
Yeah, it's like a celebration. We're
Yeah.
getting there. We're getting there.
So Alyssa, Lindsay, anything? I'll stay on to listen to the next half. Is there anything else you need from me?
No, I think that was beautiful. It was absolutely amazing to see as well, because I feel the same. I haven't seen it presented like you just presented in terms of how to review it. Like, obviously we've been able to go in, but I'm really excited for you guys.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Seth. I think we're going to turn it over to Barb so the next part is we want to hear from you guys more on a conversation level.
All right. Yeah. Well, maybe before you turn it over to me, Lindsay, just
Sorry,
tell me a
Heather's
little bit.
asking for a launch party. I'm sorry, go ahead, Barb.
Help me out a little bit with providing context for what you're looking for here in terms of, because I know that you're talking about the word assessment always in quotes, and help me just with that piece of it, what we're really asking about here.
Yeah.
I'm happy to
Okay.
share some things if that's cool with you guys.
Go for it.
Okay, so the reason I really wanted to call out to the that framework piece and the 4 primary categories, again, my best life, and then independent living, post-secondary education and training, and employment. Okay. I am putting myself in the role that I did for a number of years, which is as a VRS counselor working with students, in high school, right? And then I think about, well, how can I use this information when I'm working with a student in collaboration with their whole team, the school, of course, the student, the family, anybody that's involved, so that we're all having this conversation together about what's needed, what's the school doing or going to do. And then I think of myself again, as a VRS counselor, what pieces will I do? What are the, for us, it's like, what are those pre-ETS needs that they have? And another piece of all of this, like with us with pre-ETS, and I think across the whole system, is where's the student at now? And then over time to be able to see progression and have a nice way we all do that together. So what we wanted to do is just have a little conversation about it. And I was struggling with whether to show you what I started to put together because I didn't want to lead you too much. But I think I'm going to anyway. But I want you to know that this is just one sort of idea and we don't have to go here at all. And I won't feel bad at all. I just was trying to put something together that would help us have this conversation. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see where it says transition pre-ETS inventory? Okay, and again, this is very drafty, you guys, so there's a lot more we can do with it and or do nothing with it, So what I did is I took all 4 of those sections. So again, here's my best life. And what we talk about in each of these sections is that we look at students going from awareness, exploration, preparation, and implementation. Awareness meaning, we want to make sure they understand all the concepts that are listed in here. So it's more of like that learning and awareness. The second piece is like, once you're aware of things, then it's time to explore what are my own as a student, my own strengths, preferences, interests, and needs within all of these categories. And then it's preparation. So I've explored some things and now there's some certain things that we've identified that I could be working on to build skills, to get ready for life after high school. And then finally, it's implementing. Implementation can happen while they're in high school. They could be like, let's say a good example is transportation. Okay, I need to figure out how I'm going to get around in the community. So I'm going to start with awareness. I need to know all the things that are out there that are possible for me, including getting a driver's license, or maybe it's public transportation, whatever it might be. Then I'm going to explore my own strengths and needs in that area. Okay, we're going to consider whether getting a driver's license can work. Let's say we decide I'm going to work on a driver's license. I need some support. So we're going to talk about preparing for that. So it's getting the permit and behind the wheel and all of it. And then it's implementing. They've got their permit. Now they're using, they're driving places and they're practicing that, and they're implementing having that driver's license. That's just one example. Of course, there's many categories. So just think of that in terms with transition in general. So then when we go down, so these are all the items, like this is my best life. I'm going to go back to independent living again, because there's so many different categories. So, we had these subcategories. So community awareness. So we have 2 areas in community awareness. One is home, and I tried to give a little definition. So they obtained future housing and they're settled in that housing. Okay. Transportation is the example I just gave. So they use their personal or public transportation options as independently as possible. So anyway, so I listed them all in all the categories. So I go from independent living to employment, it's all there, and then so on. And then I was thinking, okay, what could we do if we're working like as a professional, whether I'm an educator, VRS, whoever it is that's kind of leading conversation as a team. It could be individually just with that student, but I think ideally it's with a team. You're looking at possibly where's the student at within awareness, exploration, preparation, or implementation. And then there's discussion about, okay, this student hasn't, they're at the awareness stage, meaning they need to know more about what their options are before they start moving on to other things. I was thinking too, it could be a there's a lot of ways to think about this. It could be a category for prioritizing what are we going to work on this year. There could be a category of who's going to be working on this with the student. It's going to be the school, or it could be a category of no, it's going to be VRS working on this one. You know what I mean? So I didn't think all of that through yet. I think that's work that could be done, but I just wanted to give like kind of my thinking of that. So we wanted to use the rest of this time just to have some conversation. That's just one thing, but we want to know your thoughts about that, and possibly any other, of course, we won't answer it all today, but even as you're looking through the toolkit this next week, if you're thinking about tools that will help a professional use this, what we have in the hub better, we want to know and start building that. So with that said, I'm going to be quiet. First of all, you can ask questions if what I said didn't make sense. Or I would love to hear your feedback on that.
And Alyssa, this is Barb, and I'm Barb Deming, helping facilitate the group. And Nada will be taking, my colleague Nada will be taking good notes as you talk. I just put a few questions in the chat to guide this conversation. I'd encourage you to either speak up and respond to what Alyssa just said, or if you want to follow these questions and enter your thoughts into the chat. There's so many of us and we want your feedback on these questions, and it's early thinking, so there'll be more time to hear about this, but I think we have about 15 minutes. Is that right? A little bit less now. So we just would like to hear as much as we could, whether spoken or in chat, and to what would help you at the starting point of the framework to get you to what you need in it. If you're thinking at the school or agency level, if you're thinking at the student level, if you're thinking at a higher system level, any of that. So Alyssa.
I'll just say one thing. I know Heather has her hand up. So the framework can, what Barb was saying, I just want to emphasize that. So the framework can be used as a team working with the student, and you're looking at what the student needs. The framework can also be used at a broader level. So you say it's a school, and you're looking at, okay, let's look at our curriculum and our scope and sequence and all of that. All right, what coursework are we going to have 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade for students? It could be used for planning that way, or it could be used even broader than that. It could be like, how do we maybe in this school make sure opportunities are available between the school and VRS? And how do we, it can help you with planning. It could be on a regional level. So anyway, think of it that way, student level, but even broader, like at a more of a system level.
Can I add one more thing? And then I know we all saw, so one of the ideas too is to have that same language among us all. And I think we've said that, but remember when we broke it out in the framework, it says awareness, exploration, and what Alyssa showed, preparation and implementation. And so the idea would be somebody could take it from evaluation planning to IEP planning, to curricular planning, to system planning, and building level planning. From an education perspective, you can also use that same language from a provider perspective or a VRS counselor, a community member as well, and then a parent, right? So that we're all kind of speaking that same language of, okay, Heather, you're who I see, but Heather's at an awareness exploration, and we'd really like to, her goal would be to get her to that preparation level by ... So just another thing to think of for that assessment piece.
And another thing too is that it doesn't always have to be linear either. That's the hard part, because you could be in preparation, but there's still more awareness and exploration. So that's what makes it hard on this. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out. Heather's had her hand up.
Sure, I think I agree with all the things that you guys were just talking about, and I'm trying to keep up with the chat a little bit here too. One of the things that was coming to mind when you were showing us that chart, you know, the different categories of awareness and preparation and implementation, was really that IEP process where teams could really use that to prioritize, and then a lot of those things could go. A lot of them are kind of one-timer sort of things that really could correlate with the transition activities in the IEP. And that part of that section in the activities part, school folks know this already, obviously, but it has that who's responsible part. And I know you were just talking a little bit about that, but that might be a nice thing that we would add into that like notes section, like, you know, VR is going to support pre-ET's job stuff, or like, you know what I mean? Like we would be able to delineate a little bit like that. And I think it would be lovely to kind of have it as a working document for a student where we would be able to add stuff in. And then I'm kind of, I don't know what the word is. I'm like folding that together with the work that we've been doing with the Discovering Me process and how we're just gathering more and more information about students. And so my head is going probably too many steps forward, but I'm thinking about like, how do we make sure we don't have this information we're gathering here and this information we're gathering here, and then we're all scatterbrained like this. So, but I think I'm so excited. Like, I want to get my hands on it.
Well, I'm thinking, I want to make sure I understand kind of what you're saying, Heather, that you were saying you want it to be kind of a working document that's student specific, where you're inputting kind of information about the student and stuff. I'm wondering then, from a compliance perspective, if we are thinking of this as an extension of as being part of the IEP. So you want to make sure then that parents are a part of this conversation, that you maybe reference it in the IEP so that we all know that it's a part of it. And that it's included with any prior written notice that goes out, just so we make sure that parents are kind of, you know, equal partners too, and that due process is given.
Ellen, this is Lindsay. I think you bring up, sorry, Amanda, some valid points. At this point, it's a guide, right? And so I think putting it into a prior written notice would need extra conversation, and that would be a district choice or a local level decision. I think it's a really valid point, and I didn't even think of those thoughts of the prior written notice. Thank you.
It kind of reminds me of the processes that we've kind of gone back and forth or evolved over time with graduation plans for students.
Yeah.
And, you know, we kind of had the separate document we were working with graduation plans, but really the graduation plan isn't the legal document. Everything really belongs in that IEP. So, you know, we've evolved a bit in using like a graduation plan or a grad checklist as a guide, but then everything that's decided upon lives in that, like the IEP document.
Yeah.
So this would be something we think like that. And I think that's a little bit further down the road, so I don't want to get into the weeds on that, but that's just kind of what I'm wondering about too.
I'm just gonna speak up. Sorry if this isn't my turn, but I think that as we do this, like I love it as a guide. And as I stated in the chat, like I really think it brings transition to services as opposed to the place.
Oh.
And I also know that like our case managers, or I'm just going to say case managers, like I don't want it to become what they would perceive as one more thing, which I don't think it is. I think it pulls all of the things together, as opposed to creating another thing that we have to do and fill out and check off. And I just think that that's really helpful to me. I think it'll take some time to get there, and the marketing is going to be critical on our end.
I know, Amanda, you had, you were going to chime in. I just don't want you to lose your voice in this.
Yeah, no, thank you for inviting me into the conversation, Lindsay. I just, to go back on the parent perspective, and I think it was already touched on, just making sure that we're incorporating the parent perspective on that as well. I do find that it feels like it would be a good supplemental document for some of our families to really be able to differentiate where the services are going to be taking place and who's going to be providing those services. So, Alyssa, I think you even had mentioned, in the notes section, right, just kind of being able to differentiate where those services would take place. I think for families, at least, from my perspective as an intermediate district, having some of that identified is helpful for families, because I think, when you work with complex students and you have multiple agencies involved, it can be a very confusing time and process for families. And so this to me feels like it could really be a good supplemental document that our teams could use, especially in a case where perhaps families need a more concrete plan to visually see.
Thanks, Amanda. We have just a few more minutes, and then we should probably save a couple minutes at the end to wrap up and kind of clear up how is all this going to go forward, plus the request regarding training a small group. Alyssa and Lindsay, do we still want to ask about that? Okay. Yeah. Just to preview that, we're thinking that might be helpful to have a few volunteers from this group who could help with the state team to think through some of the training planning that needs to happen, particularly around like how to organize it, where to do it, who needs to get it, when. So we're going to ask for you to put your name in the chat if you would be willing to volunteer on something like that, and we'll follow up outside of this meeting. So please continue to add your comments in the chat to the questions about kind of how to use the document or how to use the toolkit. Also, speak up. We have a couple more minutes for comments and discussion.
Okay, I just need to say I love the enthusiasm of the names going in the chat.
I know. I was thinking nobody would.
I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I just want to put the caveat out there. It is going to be a smaller group, so we may or may not have everyone. And so appreciative. And I'm not saying we're excluding anybody, but I just want to put that out there.
That's so sweet. So I think I just want to clarify. I think the purpose of my comment before was I think we need to be very intentional about what the purpose of the document is. Is it a guide? Is it something that is student specific that provides descriptions of what their services are? Like, I think, because to me, those are two very different things. So I think just kind of moving forward, we want to be very clear and intentional about kind of what it is that we're doing.
This is Amy, and as both a parent of a student with a 504 who doesn't qualify for IEP services, but who has some needs, I think having a guide like this also is going to help me as a parent know and think about those things that maybe I didn't even consider. This is an area I need to ensure my child is meeting the mark before he goes on to his next steps. And I think the guide framework helps for me as a pre-ETS provider to work with and be a partner with the school rather than possibly repeating things over and over that the student's already done. It just kind of streamlines it and can be a way so that we as BRS can fill those gaps even better.
Thanks, Amy. Alyssa and Lindsay, do you want to wrap up? Probably some people are going to have to leave right now or in a minute.
Okay. I don't know, Alyssa, if you have anything. I feel very appreciative and grateful for you guys. I think this is really exciting, and to think that we're actually to this next step of getting training ready. I never thought this day would come, but it's really, really exciting. And you guys are saying some of the things that I feel like were in the vision, the original vision. So it's incredibly exciting to hear that. And just remember, June 15th is the deadline for giving any egregious feedback. And then any other like accolades or suggestions of different things you can send to both Alyssa and myself. And this has been amazing. And thank you. I don't know, Alyssa, you're doing your parts.
I'll just say ditto. Thank you. Okay, we'll send out the stuff to all you guys very soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.